Welcome, fellow humans. Today I'm going to tell the story of when I caught my hair on fire. I don't want anyone to get too concerned. Everything went alright in the end, so it's not too scary a story, but it is at least as scary as having your hair be on fire, because that is not a situation people want to be in. So one day I was cooking with a gas stove and I just got a little bit careless. I had something on the front burner, I had something on the back burner. I leaned forward to deal with the back burner, and my hair swung forward directly into the flame of the front burner. I realized that I should be a more responsible adult, but I do a lot of cooking, and one time out of all of the times I've cooked, I messed up badly. Anyhow, so my hair was on fire. And I immediately realized my hair was on fire and I need to do something about this. What I find interesting about this situation and a few other moments in my life is that when I look back on it and I think about what I was thinking, I realize that it seems like I have a lot of thoughts for a very short period of time. And I think that's the adrenaline. I think somehow you just are able to think so much faster than normal when you're really, really worried that you could be in a very bad situation. So the first thing I thought was, of course, my hair is on fire. But then I was like, I need to do something about this. I need to put it out. And then I started thinking, how do I put it out? And what if I can't? I better make sure that I can get help, both because I might need assistance and because if there turns out to be a bad fire in the house, then other people in the house need to be aware of this. I knew that my partner was home and in his office, and so I decided the first thing that I should do is I should scream. And so I gave a loud, panicked sounding scream. What's interesting is that I actually deliberately tried to make a panic sounding scream. I didn't just scream in panic. I thought that that would be the best way to convey that there was a serious problem. Looking back on it, it would have been slightly better if I had screamed fire, because that would have communicated the issue, rather than just, there's a serious problem. Especially because my panic sounding scream does have false alarms for when I see a bug in the shower. I don't scream at bugs in general, but there's just something about if I'm naked and showering, then I see a bug and it's like, I can't deal with this. Maybe if I were dressed and ready to deal with it, but not now, not in this situation. So either emergency such as my hair is on fire or bug in the shower. Little difference between those two. But the panic sounding scream seemed like a good idea. And I also leaped to that idea because my brain remembered that that is the signal in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. My partner and I had both watched the series, and we both had joked about how that should be our signal for an emergency. And so when I was actually in an emergency, that came to mind because that is the signal that Willow says will be the signal if things go wrong. And it's a very practical signal. So I gave my panicked screaming, and then I was like, okay, I have communicated that there is a problem. I need to get this fire out fast because it's moving towards my face, and I don't want my face to be burned. And so I thought, well, I can try to put it out with my hands. I can try to smother the fire. And then my next thought was, this is going to hurt. I am going to burn my hands, and this is going to be very unpleasant. And my next thought was, I would rather burn my hands than my face. Do it. And I made myself do it. And it didn't hurt. Later, people would tell me that hair doesn't actually burn that hot, which feels like a weird thing, like a fire that isn't that hot. Maybe it's something about the light density of hair. I don't know. What I do know is I was able to smother the fire with my hands, and it didn't actually hurt me, and it did put the fire out, which was a really, really good thing. Later, it would occur to me that as a child I had been told over and over again, if you are on fire, stop, drop, and roll. And when I was a kid, I knew that, and I think if I had ever been on fire as a kid, I probably would have done that. But it had been so long since I had heard that the one time in my life that I actually was on fire, it didn't even come to mind. I think because my hair was on fire, it was actually better that I used my hands than it would have been to stop, drop, and roll. But it kind of bothers me that I didn't even consider that possibility. And if my clothes had been on fire, then obviously that's what I should have done. Since I didn't have a fire blanket handy, there is a fire extinguisher in my kitchen, but I wasn't sure about spraying myself and my hair. Like, I wasn't sure about what getting those chemicals on my face would do. I also wasn't sure how well I would be able to do that myself, which is part of why the screaming for help. But fortunately, smothering it with my hands worked, and I didn't have to try anything else. And I knew that all of that had to happen fairly quickly because it wasn't until after the fire was fully out that my partner came running to the kitchen and then asked me what's wrong, because there was no obvious problem. And I told him my hair was on fire, but it's out now. And he said, "Oh, good use of the signal." And I was amused. It's like, thank you. I did my best there. The one little ending note for the story was that I had a family gathering the next day, and I was thinking to myself, oh no, burned hair smells terrible. And it does. It smells terrible. I washed my hair a few times, doing my best to get the smell out, and I really hoped that nobody would notice. And either nobody noticed or nobody was impolite enough to say, "Why do you smell so bad today?" But I did get a comment. My mother noticed that my hair was different, and so she said, "Oh, I like what you've done with your hair." I think this is because, as you may know, heat causes hair to curl. And so a portion of my hair had some curl to it now. And I don't think she looked closely enough to notice how lopsided it was. Or maybe she was just trying to be nice and supportive. I was like, "Oh, you're doing something new with your hair. I like what you've done." And I was so unprepared to be complimented on it that I just blurted out what I was thinking, which was, "I set it on fire." And then she didn't know how to respond to that. But it grew back, of course, and I was fine, and it didn't even hurt me. Like, that's the thing. I was on fire, and it didn't even end up being painful. It was just really, really scary. Anyway, that's my story, and if you liked it, please click like, and if you know someone who might be interested in it, then please share. If you'd like more similar content, then of course subscribe. But most of all, if you have any similar stories or questions or thoughts about it, I would love to read your comments. Thank you.